Good afternoon, namaste, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for this live. I'm here with Jai Mrug, and we are going to be talking about urban mobility. But before we get down to our conversation for today, let me introduce you to the India COVID Action Network. So, India COVID Action Network is a network which has cropped up during the times of COVID, and it is working to help the underprivileged who've been the hardest hit during this time. And this is one unique movement because it is connecting people who need help to those who can provide this help. So you can send out help, you can tweet about it, you can offer to send ration, food, or anything else just sitting at your home. And across India, this network has now impacted nearly 4 lakh lives. And the number of warriors connected is 4,085, and it's growing by the minute. And we have more than 3,300 NGO partners. So as this network expands and grows, I urge you all to become a part of it in whichever way you like. And now we're coming back to the topic at hand. And of course, Jay is a master at this. But, when I was reading about urban mobility and when I was looking up recent data, not right now, but a couple of months back, the fact is that around 55% of the population of the entire world is right now in urban centers. It's in mega cities. And this is only set to increase by 2030. It's going to be around 60% of the population. And another observation I had, Jay, was that if you look at the list of top 50 cities in terms of congestion in the world, India has 5 cities in this list. And Mumbai tops it.
Yes. In fact, South Asia has the three most densely populated cities already. It's Karachi, Mumbai, and Dhaka.
The Indian subcontinent.
Yes. Indian subcontinent. Absolutely. You corrected me. Right. Perfect.
But when we look at the population densities in comparison to any other part of the country, and then we come back to Mumbai, and I'm only using Mumbai like an example. A lot of it holds true for Kolkata and for Bangalore and even Delhi to a certain extent. On one side, Jay, we are talking about getting everybody to start using more and more public transport because it is better for the environment, it's better for congestion, we control the pollution better. But when COVID has hit us, getting packed into a train during the super rush hour in Mumbai doesn't sound very healthy and doesn't sound very good.
Yeah. Charu, you sort of hit the nail. You got to the essence of the topic right away in the beginning. I think that is really the issue that we are all going to grapple with. But necessity is the mother of invention. So the entire science of operations research actually emerged during the Second World War, when Hitler had to worry about the logistics, how to move inventory in war zones from place A, place B, all the way up to Poland, up to Russia, how to do it with the least cost, how to club the goods. And I think now COVID, inadvertently sort of will trigger a renaissance of the science. How do we do it still, given the fact that we now need to maintain space? So, as an avid student of, urban transportation, one of the things that came to my mind is, okay, for example, if today you're running X number of locals, in Mumbai, is it possible to run 2x or 1.5x? At least you can space out the crowd. You can set the people more apart. COVID might just trigger a technological avalanche, which was waiting for many years. Now it would be the need of the hour. So if we talk of, a lot of this, if you talk of, local trains in Mumbai, say a distance of 32 kilometers from CST to Thane, or about, say another 36 or 38 kilometers up to Borivali, from Churchgate to Borivali. How do you ensure that in peak hour, you're carrying more people, or at least having more capacities so that people can space themselves out well, right? Now, so this depends on the throughput. In an hour, in this 30-kilometer stretch, can I put 5 trains, Can I put 10 trains? Now that's called section capacity in sort of in the language of the railways. Now, even before sort of COVID reared its head, Indian Railways was talking of experimenting a new form of signaling. Our old signaling was automatic train stop signaling, which means that if a train crossed, the distance between two signal posts is called a block, and it was a very old technology which said like only when the next 3 blocks or 2.5 blocks are empty will you let a train leave the block behind. Yeah. Now, uh, the world with technology is experimenting with new things like communication-based technology and signaling, which means I'll tell that, I'll explain it to all of us in a very simple language. Suppose you're driving a car and you're having a mobile phone and, you got your Google Maps on and you're on WhatsApp with your location being declared all the time. WhatsApp has the location tracking functionality. The car behind you, you know, even if he did not have a lot of signal posts in between, is sure not to bump into you because he's tracking a location and he's going to take care that he does not come very close to your car. So I know the location, right? Now, this is the next step, which was earlier thought to be a technological luxury, but we might just need to do that. That is, similarly, for trains, if they want to avoid this block automatic stop and just ensure that I'm only 500 meters behind the next train in front of me, you know, and then with that technology, they can ensure that today, in place of about roughly 3,000 local trains that Mumbai runs, we can run 4,500.
Yeah.
So the hope is that 1.5x is possible. Okay, and the technology which we earlier thought we will experiment over 5 years, 10 years, appoint consultants to study, we might just have to take the leap of faith and run with it, jump into it. Chara, the other thing which comes to my mind is staggered timings of office. It's been tried out in other countries.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to just come to that, Jayan, because I'll tell you where this idea stemmed from. So, when you speak to colleagues abroad, they tell you that, oh, it's fine if you're a night owl and you can work till very late at night. Somebody will tell you, I'm a very early riser, I'm up and about by 5 a.m. and I reach work at 7 a.m. It doesn't have the strict structure of office timing that most companies in India follow. So, here, office is going to be 9 to 5, which also means that all the traffic is going to be packed into these rush hours. So, between 8 to 10, or in the evening, it's going to be 5 to 7. But in a lot of countries where you have more freedom with your office timings, I think the traffic is also more paced out. And that's what I think you meant by staggered office timings.
Yeah, absolutely, Charu. And just to take that a little ahead, when it's done in a coordinated fashion, in a sort of hour of need, the sort of the way what we are getting into, it's it's in the most centrally administered fashion.
Hmm.
If we just look back into history, this was actually the first experiment in staggered timings goes way back to 1975,
Hmm.
when the government of Singapore was actually trying to handle congestion in the cities.
Hmm.
And they said, you know what, for the hospitals, let there be three set of office timings: 8, 8:30, 9. Now, what that meant is also that for the consumers, for the people who are coming into the hospital OPDs, it was a wonderful 10-hour availability, 8 to 6, because people came in three staggered shifts: 8, 8:30, 9. But yes, the more it is done in a coordinated fashion, sort of enforced by a local government like a municipality or a state government, it can really help streamline traffic on the road. It's been experimented with abroad, and that I think is a very low cost but coordinated initiative that governments can take.
But Jay, tell me, what does this mean for office space really? So if I have a company and I have 100 employees, I need to
Yeah,
ensure seating for all 100. But if we get down to talking about staggered office timing, I know this is not strictly a part of our topic
yeah,
today.
yeah,
But if we say that we're going to be working in 3 shifts or 4 shifts, the
yeah.
space I require is going to reduce drastically. How do you see this working out practically?
See, it's going to be a wonderful. Charu, you actually hit the nail right. This would have been the logical thought. It's going to be a trade-off between, yes, we have staggered timing, so maybe we are going to have less people in office, but It also means that because of COVID and the post-COVID care, we are going to space out people in office. Right?
Hmm.
So we are not necessarily going to have to be able to seat people the way we were previously doing before COVID. So
Hmm.
now offices could have lesser number of seats. Yeah. And in that event, there's a concept which a lot of multinational companies use, which is called a hot seat, you know.
Hmm.
And the hot seat typically is like a seat booking. So very much, today people are used to shared office spaces and they
We
book
work,
conference
we
rooms.
work in all that. Yes.
Yeah, we book conference rooms, we book seats. Now, even within your own company, you might just have to do that. I mean, TCS gave a mandate to their management that they should target that only 25% people work from offices. Most of others, that's what I read in the papers, that most of others should be sort of working from home.
Hmm.
Now, if this is the office infrastructure that's going to be maintained, a far lower number than the previous number of seats, then this sort of app or this sort of thing will be now a necessity. People, even vice presidents in a company, when they go, they're actually going to book their cabins, they're going to book their seats. But that's a way of life, a very resource saving way of life. Perhaps we should all get used.
Yeah, I think we've all become quite used to saving resources because all the meetings that we've managed to do right from the comfort of our homes today because of a crisis has saved a lot of congestion on the streets, has saved a lot of electricity bills for the places we worked in,
Yeah.
even chai nashta ka kharcha. So you put it all together, we've been
Look, Charu, just
very,
to make it
very
a little,
frugal and we've
make it a
managed
little
to
humorous and
function
light.
just fine.
Charu, just to make it a little humorous and light, now this is some math that my friends in the US told me that the Donald Trump administration actually started compensating companies, which is true, for
Mhm.
paying their employees. Please don't lay them off. During COVID, pay them, let them work from home, pay them. And then the companies realized that when their employees were working from home, they made a bill of all they did not have to pay for. So they said, I'm not paying for his electricity. If he claims petrol, I'm not paying. Oh, I'm not even paying for his Christmas party. I'm even saying that money. So
Yeah,
this
that's
huge
true.
list of resource savings actually come up. And yeah, it really becomes an interesting math, that most governments will now look at in detail.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, one more issue that I was thinking about, and as you're also well aware, today air travel has resumed in India.
Yeah,
So domestic air travel has resumed from today, and over the last couple of years, we've been seeing how the number of seats on an airplane has been increased. Like space has been reduced, the seat sizes have been
absolutely.
made smaller, but all of a sudden, COVID strikes and life as we knew it has absolutely disappeared, and we're all learning a new normal. So as air travel resumes today, we are talking about making sure these planes are flying at only one third capacity. But how do you see the future of air travel in terms of course, mobility and effectiveness, and how are we going to control the prices?
Oh, very interesting. Air prices are strictly a function of the number of people seated inside. Right? So, gets me to one more lighter moment. When I was doing my post graduation, I had a very well-read professor of supply chain management, a Parsi gentleman called Dr. Hirji Nagarwala. And he said, what? If you think that customer is the biggest problem and then you're going to keep cutting all his services, no snack, no water, nothing, then one fine day you might as well make a lot of money by not having the man in the flight itself.
Hmm.
So we've sort of reached that point of inflection here, where we're going to think, how can this mobility be made simpler? Now, are there any advantages we can see in the situation? And I'm always a technology optimist, and I feel, what, we should try and get something best out of this situation. Let's look at the life cycle, at the journey of an air traveler, right from the time he enters the airport. I'm doing pre-COVID. I'm not talking of May 25 when things are going to be different already, but pre-COVID, and how we can actually make that better. We all stand in a queue, yeah, and there is first a CISF person, security, at the gate of the airport before you go in, who's verifying your ID and your ticket, and then you're going in, yeah. Then if you take a normal sort of passenger, let's describe the normal passenger's journey who has check-in bags. Then he goes, He stands in the queue of all the check-in counters. And it's interesting. There's a lot of redundancy in our processes. There, the flight attendant who's issuing the ticket, the airline employee, he's once again checking the ID card
Yeah.
and the ticket, right? And then then he or she is printing out your baggage tag, putting it on your baggage, checking the weight, letting it go. You move ahead. There's another security check. Now, I think in Bombay and Delhi, that is sort of enabled by a barcode scan. You can scan there is still a Havaldar waiting there,
There's
but
still a person standing there. Yes, yes. So
yes,
he's making sure that you're scanning your barcode correctly
yeah,
or helping those who can't figure out how to scan it.
how to scan it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a very labor intensive kind of a system.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he's once again checking. Now again, to make it things light, I had a very, very nice. I have a very nice jovial friend called Vishwanath. So he would always make light of the situation. Oh, so this guy is standing here to check if the machine works or not, because the machine is doing its job, right? The barcode is working, the gates are opening, and then we go in and there's a security check again. We get our belongings out, we put it in there, and then again India still follows the traditional method of security where you're patted down, which means he's running a full security scan on your body in your presence, and then you collect your belongings and you move ahead. Think now what are we doing in this entire process, Pragya and Shreya? We are having so much human interaction where distancing actually is a problem. It just can't be implemented. You first met the guy at the gate who checked your ID. Then you went and met the flight employee. I mean, you had to talk, you had to interact. You then went and did the barcode scan. Yet there was a security person there who was he comes in close proximity of you, he comes in close distance of you.
Yeah.
And then the fourth person down, the security person, who by the side of the X-ray scanning of your hand baggage is actually patting you down to check.
Yeah.
Now, this is where technology should come in. And, I think we should look this as a silver lining out of COVID if we're able to streamline and simplify this process. All across the world, there are no two security checks. It's either the flight employee or the person down at the security there who verifies that your bona fide credentials, that you are this person. Now, we as a nation pride ourselves in JAM. We've linked Aadhars, we've linked mobile. Think of a day where you carried your mobile phone. Now we're already saying that from May 25, we are going to pre-print our web-in check, our check-in cards. We are just going to pre-print them from home. Think, even when you transfer money from a bank, Charu, we are transferring lakhs and lakhs based on a two-factor authentication. There is one transaction password or a login password that you put in your bank account, and then there is an OTP. It's a two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
And we should even let in people at the airport with a two-factor authorization. There is a scanned and a airline authenticated document, which is his boarding card, which is already having a barcode. You can ask the person to Aadhaar enable himself before he goes to the airport and have his OTP linked. You are letting him change his Aadhaar address. You're letting him change his bona fide mobile number based on that OTP. You can as well let him first. You're anyway going to security scan him afterwards if he has terrorist materials with him or not. Right? With an OTP, let people enter. So the first human interface at the gate stands completely eliminated. It's not needed. Now, think of what automation can do for you. I mean, I'm just trying to envision the future, what the future can be. All across Europe and in many places in North America, you actually have, containers saying, put your check-in bag here. If it goes here, this is the permitted size. Put your hand travel bag here. This is the permitted size. If more than this, you can't carry. Imagine you had an automated carousel with a touchpad screen. Yeah, we're just thinking like science fiction, but it's going to be fun and it's possible. Okay, with the touchpad screen, where you were told, place your hand baggage here. You've already got the baggage tag. Place it here. Here's a touchpad screen. If it's overweight, maybe you need human intervention. You can call the flight assistant, or a flight assistant can speak to you on a video that's nearby. See, this used to happen a lot when we used to, visit highly undermanned offices in the US, even in 2010. So if you had an access card, or an entry done prior an email, and your card did not work, you could not enter an office, there would be a sort of TV screen there.
Yeah.
where a security person from inside would say, hey, I'm seeing you through the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you say, look, I have a problem. I have a validated access and I'm unable to go in. So, hey, let me correct something. Now you tap your card, you'll go in, right? So somebody from the airline who wants to be considerate about your luggage, it's not 15, it's 15.5, can give a consideration button there without coming in physical proximity to you.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so you eliminate this step, everything is automated. Then you go down further with the barcode, you go through the automatic gates, and when you go for security check, you remove your shoes, your belts, everything metallic on you, just the way it's done in Europe. Again, without a human being touching you, you just pass through the security gate and you're done. And maybe this is a faster process. We don't know. We need to experiment. They have said 2 hours कल से कि 25 तारीख से 2 घंटे पहले आना. लेकिन अगर हमने ये सारा streamline कर दिया, if we are going to also say that people who are directly going to the security check are a separate queue right from the beginning. They don't even go in with the people who are doing the baggage check-in, right?
Hmm.
If we intelligently lay out the airports, this could be a blessing in disguise. I'm very hopeful. I'm an optimist. Maybe this actually makes it a faster and seamless travel.
No, and you're absolutely right, because so many times, especially when we are traveling abroad, the smaller cities have airports where you can't see a single soul. So you have
Yes.
to look at all the signage and you have to figure out आपको कहाँ जाना है, where you're supposed to be scanning for your boarding pass, where do you print out the luggage tags. You're supposed to do everything yourself. And I think after the first 1 or 2 tries, you get the hang of it and you actually find it easier, because
Yes.
you're not waiting in queue, you're not dependent. And do you remember the time when our kiosks were installed in airports? So
Yes.
all you had to do is go in there and key in your
Yes.
PNR, and
Yeah.
you would get a printed boarding pass, and
Yeah.
life actually became simpler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's still more innovation. You know what?
yeah,
Now, finally, I was just reading all the notifications of the aviation ministry in detail, about operating from 25th May. They said you need to be careful. People embarking and disembarking from the aircraft will be using the same bridge. I mean, they're just going to use the same bridge. Now, this is also finally a thoughtful application of mind.
hmm,
So many times in the past, we have said, this is an international place. There is no aero bridge available here. It's a domestic flight. It's parked there. Please take a bus. We are going to bus everybody. I think busing had become such a norm. I don't know why. Everywhere, somehow we used to get bussed. In fact, I used to carefully try and select flights which I knew used to take aero bridges, yet I would get bussed at least once in a while.
yeah,
And, and this phenomenon, again, if you go abroad, it is so common. People will exit from the same gate and people will enter through the same gate. There is just a passenger discipline that the airline maintains to ensure that nobody needs to be bussed.
hmm,
As, in the very advent of processes and technology, suppose you're boarding an international flight, you're going to exit the country. We all know that a valid passport and a valid ticket for an international flight is checked by the flight attendant before you embark, before you
absolutely.
get into the flight.
Yeah,
If we know that those processes, including sometimes there's a small security check before entering the flight. Sometimes once again they tell you scan your luggage.
yeah,
If
yeah,
we know things are so sure and so certain, we should not, you know, put in silos international and domestic departures and separate them so much that sometimes, at the international flight terminals and departures, empty aero bridges are available but are not used by the domestic flight saying, nahi, nahi, wo to international ka. If we got a security and a technology in place, we should experiment with all this. I mean, we need to
that's
make life easy. Yeah?
That's a very, very good point. In fact, you're absolutely right, because we're using the same airport area, same landing strips. Why not use the aero bridges and make it maximum utilized? Jay, since we were talking about air travel, I would like to now move on to rail travel, because again, in the last couple of years, and especially in the last 1 year, we have seen how we've tried to make trains quicker, more comfortable, and in a situation where many people are using a particular route, we've made these trains chair cars also. So the shorter route trains have been transformed to quite an extent into chair cars, so more number of people can comfortably travel. How do you see this changing, or do you see this continuing as it is?
chair cars are a great matter of comfort. They're liked by the commuters as well. Uh, well, and we can put in different, uh, you know, uh, maybe the old sleeper cars to them if you want to distance them a little more. Of course, in chair cars, the distancing is very little, and that is going to be a real problem that we are going to face if we are going to keep some norms for social distancing. While that, if social distancing is the key, chair cars are not a healthy option. We would, perhaps go to the three-tier sleepers. Uh, but what is more interesting is, we would need to evaluate, if we can have longer trains to make do for the reduced per coach capacity. The per coach capacity is going to come down. So, can you have a longer train which can help you with that? There's
Right.
one more thing which really matters, and I think this crisis has brought us to think about it. Is really, can we have the old unreserved travel anymore? It's a very interesting phenomenon. A great deal of India doesn't manage to get secured reserved tickets because of something with the ticketing software, and everything becomes full at 8 o'clock. The ticketing counter opens at 8. At 8 o'clock and 2 minutes, everything is done. Of course, now it has improved a lot. The government has come down heavily on touts, and it's the availability is much more. But even now, when the availability is lesser, the option, that anybody around us, a maid working in our house, or a lot of helps who come to the city, the migrants who recently migrating, is the unreserved ticket. So what they do is they're going to go, queue up, say 3 hours, 4 hours in advance before the train departs. And of course, previously it was very chaotic. When I was a child, somebody from the yard would take 20 rupees, sit, block the seats, and come. And
Yeah.
then these guys would, moment the train comes, throw their belongings through the window into the train,
Yeah.
beds out. And now that's a little bit structured. There is a guard waiting there, and nobody's blocking the train from the yard. The guard, ensure that there's a queue, everybody goes in. Yet, uh, pre-COVID, we did not have an upper cap on the number of passengers who traveled in that. I mean, by upper cap, yeah, I mean that 1,000 can travel, but nobody went in and counted how many were there.
Absolutely, and not just for long distance trains. Yeah, this is very true for the metro in Delhi and for the locals in Mumbai,
Yeah, yeah,
because at rush hour the traffic here is also quite big. And I have traveled Mumbai locals my whole life. I
yeah.
know how it could get, and keeping the COVID situation in mind, and that it's here to stay for a while.
Yeah.
We'll have to maybe put a cap on the number of people per compartment, even in the local trains.
No, see, now that's where the challenge comes. First is, okay, in the long distance trains, it's still somewhat possible. We know that roughly in the last luggage and brake van, where one half is a luggage compartment, one half is a passenger compartment, in a place of 50, some 100 travel, we can at least do some things like putting two more unreserved coaches. Okay, you travel spaciously. Fine, you're
Yeah.
unreserved. Yeah, even for the unreserved, you have some ticketing. Okay, भैया कल शाम को 5 बजे तो एक ऐप खुल जाएगा जिसमें आपको आपका नाम डालना है. You don't just come to the station, buy a ticket, and stand in the queue. I think that will have to go for sure.
Hmm.
Coming back to local trains, it really gets me worried, because in Bombay, in Mumbai, the local trains almost carry sometimes 3.5 times their capacity.
Yeah.
That's the sort of crowd that goes in over there. Now, I'm basically a student of manufacturing supply chain, so I think like a factory. Uh, you know, Japan, what they used to do. I mean, this will be a little comical, a little humorous for our viewers also. Japan, you actually used to have people to stuff people. I mean, just look at this, to stuff commuters into the train during peak hours so that nobody fell down. See, in Mumbai, a lot of people fall down and die
Yeah.
from trains. वो एक बहुत serious issue है मुंबई में कि लोग train से गिर के मर जाते हैं.
Hmm.
In Japan, they used to have people to stuff commuters into the trains. Go, get in, and then the automatic doors will close.
Hmm.
Now, we clearly can't be stuffing people.
Hmm.
So, there are 2 things. Of course, first, uh, Look at this, just look at most of the, this is quite anathema to a lot of local politicians and a lot of local planners, what I'm saying, but look at most of the international metro transportation networks. There are a couple of fundamental principles on which they're based. One, there will be end-to-end trains, right? So if it's say from Gatwick Airport to somewhere in the north in London, it will be one end-to-end train. Like here we have Bandra, Andheri, Borivali, Bhayandar,
नहीं
Vasai.
फास्ट ट्रेन भी होती है.
हाँ,
मैं
fast train
फास्ट
भी
लेती थी.
नहीं, fast train भी
बांद्रा टू दादर में फास्ट लेती थी.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल नहीं, और वो
नहीं,
फास्ट
नहीं, but I get your point. I get your point. So it makes the commute a lot more easier. But Jay, the different
I'll
angle
complete
we
it,
have
Charu.
to.
Just
Okay.
two, three more points.
Yeah.
एक वो end to end होता है. दूसरा, after doing it end to end, they ensure that the frequency is banged down minimal, 2.5 or 3 minutes. And throughout the day, I mean, they might space it out a little in the afternoon, but throughout the day, end to end, high frequency, multiple crossover points and connections. Multiple. So, you get down at place X, you take the orange line, it'll go there, get down at place Y, you take the Piccadilly line, multiple connections, all of them end to end, all of them very high frequency. If we can achieve that with the proposed metro network of Bombay, I see some hope over there. For that we have to ensure that there is a proper time with the new metro infrastructure services as well as the local trains. So, for example, we have this line in Bombay which is slated to go right from Vadala to Kasar Vadavli in Thane, and now even beyond that. And I'm just curious to see that when it meets the Central Railway, are they having continuous changeover junctions at Vikhroli, Bhandup, and Kanjurmarg? Because these are the three stations that will almost run parallel to the old train network. So, for example, when you travel international, they actually tell you, if you go to London, they will tell you, that this station is crowded right now. You don't go. You don't want a parade-like situation there. You don't go there. There is another alternate, station you have to change your line. Please get down at this station. Yeah. So we need to build such things at Matunga in addition to Dadar and Parel. For example, in Bombay, Matunga should get a through connection between West and Central. Yeah. The trains need to be end to end with a lot of frequency, and even the metro networks should touch the old rail networks at least 2 points. Now, what do I mean? Let me give an example. We have the line from Vadala to Kasar Vadavli, right? Now they are saying that they might extend it to GPO, which is nothing but the old CST station, almost close by there. Yeah. If that happens, and you provide a touch point at one of the other terminuses, it gives that line an ability to take the load off the old line. So ये हर शहर में इंटरनेशनली फॉलोड एक बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस है मेट्रो ट्रेन्स की, कि जो पुराने नेटवर्क्स हैं उसके साथ देयर शुड बी एटलीस्ट 2, मोर देन 2 इज वेलकम, बट एटलीस्ट 2 टच पॉइंट्स, एंड दैट टू एट टर्मिनल और जंक्शन स्टेशंस. So if that is brought into view, maybe we can use the metro very intuitively to reduce our loads. But till that time, and we might just have to play it out and wait sort of.
Yeah. So I had 2 more ideas floating around in my mind, and I'll address the first one first. So how metros have been shaping up all over the world, metro cities, I mean, the urban centers, that not very many people can afford to live in the city center. So what has developed are satellite towns. So if I use Delhi as an example, we have an entire NCR region now. So staying in New Delhi or Central Delhi is not very practical. So people could be traveling in from Gurgaon, Faridabad, Noida, even Greater Noida, Sonipat. So the entire satellite town network is getting bigger and bigger, and it's the same for all major metros across the world. When this happens, urban mobility becomes even more important. And there's another aspect to this. So now we're addressing the office goers, but then there is an angle in India which is also for the school going children. So it's not like how anywhere else in the world your school is probably going to be in your neighborhood, and most probably you can just cycle up to your school or walk up to your school in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. In India, even that adds a lot of pressure to urban mobility. So there are going to be school buses, there's going to be afternoon rush as well, and certain areas are going to get blocked. So looking at India from the point of view of urban mobility, we have to also see the satellite towns, Jay,
Yeah, yeah,
and then the school rush, because there's so
absolutely,
much commute involved.
absolutely.
And my last question to you is, and then you can put this all together and try and
Okay.
make sense of it to me.
Yeah,
How very many times we have also spoken about that we need an alternate infrastructure. So if my workplace luckily is just a 10-minute drive from my house, it means I could cycle there in 20 minutes.
yeah,
But because of the lack of infrastructure, I'm unable to do that. So cycling helps me to keep my city greener.
yeah,
I'm reducing congestion. I'm becoming healthier myself.
yeah.
The carbon emissions are kept at a low, and that culture needs to be got around in a very infrastructural change kind of a way. So can we see that happening in India now?
Yeah, I think, and I'll start with cycling. Like, so for example, Mumbai presents a very unique picture.
Yeah,
So when you're in BKC, it's a newly planned sort of office business district. You suddenly find, oh, there's a cycling track everywhere around me, and you hit and you enter Kurla, and suddenly not only has the cycling track disappeared, even the road has become smaller. It's become much narrower. So I think yes, even encouraging teenagers to drive to school or to cycle to school or college, it should be welcome. We really need those cycling tracks, and whatever they're doing now to say remove the encroachments, it must be taken much more seriously, because this is now going to be the sign of modernity. What's
mm,
your carbon footprint,
yeah,
right? So if we're encouraging people to cycle, it's going to be a sign of modernity. There's one more thing, Charu, which I was sort of intriguingly looking up today, and I figured out as an alternative mode of transportation. Uh, how about using the Yamuna? How about using the Methi River in Bombay? In fact, Bombay has a big shoreline. We have the creek coming in Thane.
yeah,
And how about using that for, see, the beauty about that is it's first of all low cost transportation.
yeah,
In Kerala, we have experimented with electric boats, with solar boats. And the beauty in a sort of post COVID environment is you don't need to worry about carriage capacity on the water mode when you're thinking of social distancing, right? I mean, you can have as many boats. You can have one boat that carries only 10 people, nicely spaced out and sitting. You can follow it up with another boat. There's going to be no traffic jam unless you've made a big mess, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So think of it like people traveling across the Yamuna, yeah, in Delhi. In Bombay, again, there have been feeble attempts in Mumbai in the past to say that, okay, let's start from, say, Nariman Point.
Mm,
We can go up to Vashi or Nerul. We can even have, a jetty at Airoli, which caters to people in Nahur, Mulund, Airoli on the other side. We can even have boats going up to Borivali or Andheri. We can build jetties, on the Mud Island, we can build a jetty. So I think even transporting on water, and it's a
but
beautiful, yeah,
if you look at the way the water resources ministry has worked in the last 4 5 years, I
yeah,
think the number of cargo ships in our rivers has increased. So we are definitely using it to transport cargo,
yeah.
but not for people just as yet. And that's a great suggestion. We can start using our rivers for transportation for people as well.
क्योंकि
Cargo
वहां पे
shipping really help.
social distancing का constraint नहीं है. You don't have a constraint on carriage capacity. You can
Right,
just send in 10 boats more, like, but people are spaced out. So
right. No, and in fact, I'd like to praise the government here, because there have been so many new ways and means of transportation that's been introduced by our current government. One is using the riverways for
yeah,
transportation of cargo. We can, of course, up it up and put passenger boats there. The other thing is our government is also focusing on building peripheral highways now.
yeah,
So for the big congested cities, there could be goods trucks or people who just want to cross from this side of the city to the other side, if we make peripheral highways, if we focus on that, the number of people crossing through the city is going to go down, bring down congestion, bring down pollution. Because, Jay, if I may, there's one more thing I want to point out, where urban mobility is concerned. We have to look at the life expectancy of people who live in these metro areas. It's
Yeah.
down by at least a couple of years than from an average person living elsewhere. And the kind of air we are inhaling. So pollution levels are so high that our cost on infrastructure for health is very high. Our cost on medical for recovery if we fall sick once is very high. And of course life expectancy goes down, and not just for adults, it's the same for children as well. So if we focus on things like this, like peripheral roads, etc., do you see a lasting impact in our cities in the long run?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Peripheral roads, more wider freeway sort of projects, which actually connect people from A to B with minimal carbon footprint are always welcome. And I think the government has done a stupendous job on that. I mean, they've really gone hammer and tongs, built, those many freeways.
Green
You know,
highways.
yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah.
making sure that there is a cover of trees also to absorb the emissions from cars.
Absolutely. And one initiative that really struck my eye was last month, and of course, you're a climate change person. I'm bringing it to you now. Is on 27th April, NTPC came out with an expression of interest, inviting an expression of interest for hydrogen fueled buses and cars in Delhi and Leh. Now, to tell our viewers, a hydrogen fueled bus or car only emits H2O. It emits water vapor. There's zero carbon footprint. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
If that's an experiment, and you're a climate change expert, so if that's an experiment that scales up, nothing like it. So,
Yeah, and we're already bringing down the costs involved in experiments like this, whether it's promoting the use of electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, even hydro-based vehicles in the future. It's going to be a revolutionary change, and I see that impacting the generations to come. I think for you and me, we still got used to sitting in a car for 1 hour to reach office, but that's definitely going to change because of COVID, because nobody wants to be in a public space for more time than is strictly required, and the way we use public transport is going to change. So if people want to move on to using their private vehicles,
yeah.
how can we keep congestion to a minimum is going to be a big challenge the government will also face now.
Yes, yes. Now, if people are going to use first, I'm still a believer that public transport holds the key to a low carbon footprint, to a lesser
Absolutely,
congestion.
I agree with you.
And now, but if given that this is the demand of the situation, uh, think of it. Think of it like this. Uh, you know, uh, the bus rapid transit system,
Hmm.
the BRTS. Yeah. How does it work? Like, it treats a bus like a local train, like a local
Hmm.
sort of. It has its own right of way. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
guarded right
Delhi
of.
used to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so now currently on a BRTS also, the frequency of the bus is still about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or depending on the route it takes. What I was thinking is that, we can still encourage people to use public transport.
Hmm.
But if we can widen our roads and create these dedicated lanes on which buses are moving continually, say at a frequency of 2 minutes, so
Yeah.
you have buses enough to space in people. Okay, that because it's every 2 minutes, I know that new passengers coming into my bus station are only
Hmm.
10 or 12. And
Hmm.
those 10 or 12, I can space them in neatly. I don't need them to stand. I don't need them to get crushed, right? I can.
Yeah.
So if this sort of thing happens, it is still a greener and better alternative to everybody taking out their car. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is, if you have a web and network of such,
Hmm.
you know, you can use information technology. You can tell people, okay, download one app, like say, for example, let's give it a name, Mera Sheher, Meri Yatra, something like that. And then he goes on the app and says, okay, I'm going from ABC place to XYZ. The app knows the frequency of those buses every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes. And the app doesn't look, what? You just go through so many interchange points through these buses which are coming every 2 minutes. Please don't take your car out. And you go to reach your destination sitting nicely because we're not going to crowd you in the bus, and you're going to reach that place in X number of minutes. If we can even build a system that has reliability and predictability, it increases the utilization of the public transport. I still favor that, vis-a-vis telling, like everybody get their cars out, because having so many cars on the road, we simply do not have the infrastructure to take that. Yeah. So, even if you sort of, say travel sometimes in Europe, the bus stations actually tell you, this is the bus route number and this is the expected number of minutes in which it's going to come.
It's going to arrive, the expected time of arrival.
Right. Let's build in that reliability. If we build a BRTS with massive number of interconnections and reliability, we're still maybe taking people away from cars.
Yeah, and Jay, you're absolutely right, because again, I'm going to use Delhi as an example because that's where I'm based right now. During the time of Commonwealth Games, we saw this massive change in Delhi traffic. There were lanes which were allotted, BRT corridors were made. There were lanes made for three-wheelers and two-wheelers, and the cars were in the other lanes. But over a period of time, we saw that infrastructure was not used as much as it was misused. And eventually, BRT was done away with altogether. Because there used to be two huge lanes which were more or less empty always, and crazy congestion on either side of those. Yes. So I think maybe we were a little bit foresighted when we started that, but it's a good time to bring BRT back. And I hope government's thinking about it.
Ensure that the lanes are always full, so that the other side doesn't need to have a car. If the lane is full all the time, I mean, people might actually find it faster than their car.
Yeah. You're very right, because the main reason people also take the metro or the locals in major cities is because of the time you're saving. So if you were to take a taxi, for example, you're just going to take nearly twice the amount of time to reach your workplace. So we save time, we save the pollution we could be injected into our environment, our carbon footprint is low, and it's a win-win all around. And
so we are living in times of change, and it's just a little off tangent, but a lot of the European countries are planning a green recovery from the pandemic. They're saying they make good. So we have goals for saying that we want to, bring down carbon footprint, and COVID gives us an opportunity, So
I'm actually writing that word down,
Green recovery.
Yeah, green recovery. It's such a wonderful and such a positive word, and absolutely, because I think that's what even India is trying to do. We are trying to turn this crisis into an opportunity, whichever direction we look into, whether it's our manufacturing sector or whether we look at urban mobility, all the updates that were a little slow till now because we were also busy on the roads. Maybe now we'll have time to bring about those changes, build those cycle tracks, make sure our public transportation is upped, the expenditure is done on buying those extra number of buses and trains. And this has been such a wonderful conversation, Jai. Thank you very much for your time. I'd also like to thank India COVID Action Network. Thank you so much for the ICANN conversations, because every single time I've listened into one, and today I've been lucky enough to facilitate one, I have learned so much. So as India moves into the future, I would like to wish everyone the best of luck. And I hope we come out of this very, very strong. And before we sign off for the day, we're going to play the anthem for India COVID Action Network. And we're honoring all the heroes who are working on ground during this time of crisis. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you.
मुश्किल है आन पड़ी ये कैसी कठिन घड़ी, सहमी सहमी जिंदगी, बिखरी हुई बंदगी, मानवता है पुकार रही, दिखाएं हम दरिया दिली। I can, you can, we can, India can, I can, you can, we can, India can। हम सब मिल जाएं तो मिलकर हाथ बटाए तो टल जाएगी ये घड़ी, झूमेगी फिर से खुशी। आशा टूटे नहीं, हौसला रूठे नहीं, साथ ये छूटे नहीं, मंजिल दूर नहीं। मानवता है पुकार रही, दिखाए हम दरिया दिली। I can, you can, we can, India can, I can, you can, we can, India can.